your voice, your future. Live from the campus of Charleston Southern University in North Charleston, South Carolina, it's the 2014 South Carolina Gubernatorial Debate. Brought to you by ABC News 4, WPDE News Channel 15, Watch Fox, WLOS News 13, WMYA, and the Post and Courier. Please welcome tonight's moderator, Mark Hyman.
Good evening and welcome to Charleston Southern University. I'm Mark Hyman, host of Behind the Headlines. This is the general election debate for the candidates Governor Nikki Haley, State Senator Vincent Shaheen, Judge Tom Irvin, Mr. Steve French, and Dr. Morgan Bruce Reeves. Tonight's participants have agreed to the debate format. Tonight's topics are jobs, the economy, and growth. A candidate is permitted 60 seconds to answer each question. Each candidate is also allowed 3 30-second rebuttals, which they may use at their discretion, either to rebut an opponent's answer or to extend their remarks. However, all rebuttals must be used prior to their closing statements. Panelists joining me this evening are Dean Stevens, ABC News 4 of Charleston, Cynthia Roldan with the Post and Courier newspaper, Tim McGinnis of WPDE News Channel 15 of Myrtle Beach, and Skylar Croft with the Post and Courier newspaper. In the interest of time and out of respect of all candidates, we've asked our live audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or otherwise making noise, with 2 exceptions. At the conclusion of tonight's debate, and right now when we welcome the candidates. We've got a busy night ahead of us, so let's get started. The first question of the evening will go to Governor Haley from Dean Stevens.
Good evening. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, South Carolinians lost more than $5,000 per year in median household income from 2000 to 2012. That means the number of South Carolinians living below the poverty line is about 1 in 5 versus 1 in 6 in 2000. What steps should the state and the next governor take to help those who have fallen behind economically?
It was facts like those that actually caused us to really focus in on jobs, and not just jobs in the bigger parts of the states, but jobs in the rural areas of the state. That's why we've been proud to announce almost 57,000 jobs in 45 out of 46 counties. We were thrilled today. We announced 400 jobs in Dillon. Yesterday, we announced 665 jobs in Myrtle Beach, and tomorrow we will be celebrating 175 jobs in Clarendon County. What we want to continue to do is make sure that it's our South Carolinians that are getting these 57,000 jobs. And so we'll continue to work on workforce training. We are proud to say that GDP, which really focuses on our economy, has grown by 12%, and the average weekly salary since 2010 has actually grown by 9% in South Carolina. So our focus will continue to be to put as many people to work as possible and to make sure it's good quality jobs that we're bringing to South Carolina. Thank you.
Senator, same question.
Thank you. I think we need to have a governor who will shoot straight with us. You know, over the last few years, we've seen a decline in incomes in South Carolinians. And of those jobs that Governor Haley said she announced, only about 50% of them actually show up and people are able to get those jobs and work. You know, we can do some very simple things to create jobs in South Carolina, and we don't need a governor who's going to stop them from coming. As your next governor, I will bring our Medicaid tax dollars to this state. That will create 45,000 new jobs in this state. Instead, our tax dollars are being sent to other states, and our jobs are being sent to other states. That's just wrong. And then we need to focus on small businesses in South Carolina. South Carolina-owned businesses. You know, we need to give them the same support, the same opportunities that we do to the out-of-state corporations that we recruit to South Carolina. Why have we seen declining incomes? Why have we seen record numbers of people drop out of the workforce? Why have we been ranked the 5th worst economy in America? It's because we're not keeping our own tax dollars here, and we're not supporting small business in South Carolina like we should. I'll do that as our next governor.
Judge, your response to the same question?
Well, at 30,000 feet in her corporate jet, I'm sure that Governor Haley thinks things look good in South Carolina. But I've traveled the entire state. I've been thousands of miles. I've held over 40 town halls across the state. And Governor, I can tell you a lot of folks are still hurting out there. You know, there are fewer people working today than a year ago. And as was stated in the question, 1 in 5 South Carolinians are living below the poverty level. Now, we can do better. My plan to grow the economy for all in South Carolina includes increasing the minimum wage over 3 years to be phased in with tax credits for small business. You know, folks that want to work hard deserve a living wage. $7.25 an hour is simply not going to cut it. I've met so many people that are working 2 and 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. And I'd eliminate the eliminate all these sales tax exemptions in the code as recommended by our TRAC Commission, a bipartisan commission that looked at our tax code, so that we can eliminate the South Carolina personal income tax. And we still have enough money left over to reduce the sales tax from 6 to 5% statewide.
And Judge, your time's expired.
Thank you.
Mr. French, your response to the same question?
Sure. Well, first I'd like to thank Charleston Southern. I'd like to thank the Post and Courier. I'd even like to thank all the candidates here for being tonight and everybody watching at home and here tonight. The quickest way to get jobs in this state is very simple. We need to get rid of the personal and corporate income tax. All jobs, all growth, all economic development flows through that. It's very simple, folks. There's $250 a month that you're leaving out there of your own money. The average person in this state makes a median income of $42,000, and if you do the math, that's $250 a month. You want to talk about real money, what you can do with that. I mean, you can buy a Honda, a Ford, a Chevy vehicle for yourself. You can buy diapers, groceries. There's so many things that you can do with that money. But the fact of the matter is, too, there's other states right now that are carrying the water for us. There's 9 other states in this country that don't have an income tax. Those 9 states have created over 63% of all the new jobs over the past decade. So when you're talking about growth and you're talking about more jobs, it 100% comes down to taxes and getting rid of that corporate and personal income tax. I completely disagree with
Mr. French, and your time has expired.
Sure.
Doctor?
First of all, I'd like to say greetings to all of you and many blessings to all the families over the state of South Carolina. God bless your children and grandchildren, and many blessings to all of you. My concept and my observation of creating jobs in South Carolina, we need long-term jobs, not just temporary jobs. We need long-term jobs. We need jobs that will stay in South Carolina. We need the type of jobs will lead us into the 21st century. I don't mind giving businesses, big corporations tax breaks only if they will hire new people. Don't give them tax breaks if their CEOs are going to pay themselves million-dollar bonuses. Let me expound on how we bring these jobs in. I would like to expound on by legalizing marijuana, legalizing hemp. Our budget is $24 billion a year, $240,000. Through these jobs, we can stop our prison rate, which is the biggest expense we have. Parents are tired of their children going to jail for this. We can create a better law. I would like to also...
And Doctor, your time's expired. And I will encourage all of our candidates, keep an eye on your 60-second red light, please, so I don't have to cut you off. And Governor, I understand you have a rebuttal you'd like to make?
Yes, I would just, just because you say something doesn't make it true. What we know is from the feds, our GDP has grown by 12%. But more than that, when you say only half of the jobs have come, we announced GT Tire. That's 1,600 jobs in Chester. Those don't happen overnight. We announced Continental back in 2011. Hundreds of people have been hired, but we still are going to 1,700. It will take a while for that to happen. What I can tell you, though, is ask those hundreds of families in Sumter how they feel. Ask those families in Chester that are getting ready to get those jobs. And on top of that, for small businesses, we've reduced taxes from 5% to 3%.
Senator, you have a rebuttal as well?
Thank you, I do. I think that I agree with Governor Haley. Just because you say it doesn't make it true. And the numbers that Governor Haley has been feeding us, now for almost 4 years just don't add up. You know, a business that comes here and opens its door for only a few months and then shuts down, that's not real growth in South Carolina. The truth is, we have seen declining incomes in South Carolina citizens. In other words, in the last 4 years, our citizens have lost money, and we can do better.
The second question of the evening is going to start with Senator Shaheen. Shaheen, my apologies. It's going to come from Cynthia Roldan.
Governor Haley has said that she opposes unions in the state because they hurt economic growth. Do you believe organized labor has a place in South Carolina?
I believe that we should maintain the right to work status of South Carolina and the South Carolinians. But you know, I welcome any jobs to this state. Any good paying jobs, I want to come to this state. If Ford Motor Company wants to hire 1,000 people here, come on. What I don't want is politicians getting in between employers and employees. Their arrangements should be between them. I think the state should be right to work. I think that we also need to focus on how we can grow wealth in South Carolina, how we can increase incomes, and simply recruiting other out-of-state companies to this state is not enough. Listen, we are turning away $11 billion of our own tax dollars, Medicaid tax dollars that would hire nurses, doctors, help rural hospitals. And where's that money going? That money is going to other states. 9 Republican governors put the good of their people above their ideology and their own ideas of self-promotion. We should do the same here in South Carolina. Rural hospitals in this state deserve to be able to stay open, and we need to increase the jobs that we have in health care across South Carolina if we're ever going to be successful.
Judge?
Well, I'd like to go back to jobs and economic incentives. You know, I support economic incentives as long as they're done responsibly. Now, when Governor Haley first ran for office, she promised us that she would be transparent and accountable, but she's been nothing of the sort. What I would point out, Governor, is, you know, there's the old saying, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Well, you know, Governor, you've given away the milk, you've given away the cow, you've given away the pigs, you've given away the farm when it comes to economic incentives. You know, we need transparency, and what I'd ask you to commit to tonight, Governor, is post online the details of all of your economic incentive packages for the taxpayers of our state to see, so that our taxpayers can judge whether or not it was a wise investment of our taxpayer dollars. You know, the cornerstone of your campaign has been jobs in the economy, so surely you would agree to do this tonight, agree to commit to post them online. Would you do that, yes or no?
And Judge, your time's expired. Mr. French.
South Carolina, I'm running as a libertarian because I want to give you a consistent philosophy. I want to give you something that is both talking about freedom economically and socially. I vehemently disagree with Vincent Shaheen in talking about expanding Medicaid. I've never heard of a government program that once it's enacted is then therefore taken away. We don't have the money, and there's always strings attached whenever we get federal funding. I am vehemently against raising the minimum wage, not because I'm a mean old libertarian, but because I know what that's going to do to jobs in this state. Now, I am all about this being a right-to-work state. I don't believe that we need unions in today's day and time. But the fact of the matter is, folks, I look at jobs like I look at sex. You shouldn't brag about it if you got to pay for it. And the fact is, every one of you in this room tonight can create jobs if you're giving billions of dollars of other people's money. Tom wrote a great 78-page report, but he and I completely disagree on the conclusions of that report. I've never heard where we should be giving public tax money to private businesses for them to stay profitable.
Doctor?
Well, as far as unions are concerned, unions are okay, but they got to understand they got to be competitive with other markets around America and around the world. Look at Detroit for an example. We just can't continue to pay people more and more and more money because we have to be competitive. On the other hand, we got to look beyond economic development and create a discussion that goes beyond economic development. The problems that we have in South Carolina, government is not all we need. As a governor, what I would do would have a legislative agenda, and I would use faith-based money. Faith-based money by raising through marijuana, raising it through hemp plants, faith-based money to give to churches, to work in community centers, give to different organizations in our community, and we will all have a unified effort to straighten out the problems in our community. A mother cannot work on $10 an hour. She has to have, nobody can have a family with that type of money. Under my administration, there will be nobody working at McDonald's
and your time has expired, Doctor.
Making less than $20 per hour.
And Governor, your response?
Thank you. We are a strong right-to-work state. Not only that, we were named the 3rd best state to do business in. That's because we don't have unions in South Carolina. What we appreciate is the fact that our associates love the direct relationship they have with their employer. And our employers understand they need to take care of those that take care of them. That's the reason South Carolina's worked. But let me take you back to what the big labor does. Remember when the National Labor Relations Board sued that great American company, Boeing, for creating 1,000 jobs? Senator Shaheen was quiet at that time. But we fought, and we fought loud, and the rest of the country joined us. And those 1,000 jobs are now 7,500 non-union jobs today. That's what happens when you've got a governor that fights. That's what happens when you've got a governor that has the backs of the businesses that employ South Carolinians. That's what you'll continue to have with me. Yes, we're going to continue to fight the unions because we do good business in South Carolina, and good business continues to bring the jobs. And as long as we're bringing jobs every week like we are this week, we're going to keep doing what we're doing.
Tim McGinnis will have the next question, and he will start with Judge Irvin.
According to this year's South Carolina Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the 5 state employees' retirement programs covering state and public school district employees, police officers, the General Assembly, judges and solicitors, and the National Guard are underfunded by more than $15.6 billion with a B dollars. What steps need to be taken in order to meet the retirement obligations that the state's made to its employees?
We, of course, need to be careful to take steps to shore up our retirement reserves, and we have an obligation to our public employees and retirees to be sure that that's accomplished. You know, Governor Haley's turned her back on state employees and retirees time and time again. They've had to go 3 years in her administration before they even got a cost of living increase, and she waited to the election year to let it pass this time. So the other thing I want to point out to you when we're talking about leadership is ethics. And, you know, politics and scandal don't have to mean the same thing in South Carolina. Both Senator Shaheen and Governor Haley are career politicians. Governor Haley promised that she would make ethics reform her top priority, and yet she was missing in action when it came up for debate. Senator Shaheen actually voted against the ethics bill. You know, my plan to pass strong ethics reform includes adopting term limits. We have got to abolish leadership PACs, or political action committees. We need to adopt income disclosure.
Your time's expired.
Thank you.
Mr. French?
Well, I think one of the surest things that we can do to shore up our pension system is listen to the professionals. No matter what you may think of our Treasurer Curtis Loftus, he is spot on when he talks about the $425 million that our pension fund pays in fees. Now, if we just paid the average, what the average state in this country pays, we would get another $274 million back in South Carolinian pension pockets. I think that's the first thing that we can do. Now, I definitely sound off of what Tom's saying about term limits. I think that's a great thing to talk about. But you want to know a great way of bypassing term limits? Have a strong third party. Have a strong libertarian party that will be willing to take on both Democrats and Republicans that have been there for decades. Now, when it comes to our current pension system, my dad, he gets a state pension from North Carolina. I am not coming in here to say that we need to be cutting those retirees. They have already worked. There's no way for them to recoup that money. But I do think we need to talk about new employees and younger people that are coming into our state facility and redo those contracts.
Doctor?
For us, let us let the rubber hit the road right here. Look at our campaigns. I'm a candidate that has zero amount of money in my campaign. I watch candidates both in our legislative branch and our executive branch spend over $10 million while our firemen are out there in in the middle of intersections with the boot out asking for 25 cents to pay their bills. I will double the salary of any fireman. I will double the salary of any school teacher. I will double the salary. And how am I going to do it? Our budget is $24 billion. They can't raise the budget. So where do we get the money from? I'm a running back from Michigan State University. I played in the Pro Hall of Fame Bowl. Give me the ball. I'll get some yardage for you.
Governor?
The pension issue is one that we need to always continue to watch, and that's exactly why we passed pension reform the first year we were in office. What we saw was we were in trouble, not only of not being able to pay the pensions, but in losing our credit rating. So we went and we had a conversation with state employees, and we told them that we could no longer have them retire in 28 years. We needed to have them retire in 30. We told them they could no longer get their retirement before the age of 65. We had to make some serious cuts. We were in a serious time with our budget, but we were able to do that together. We were able to pass the pension reform and get us back within that 30-year window. Now, what's key as we go forward is that we don't stop looking at it, that we continue to make those adjustments and those changes as necessary so that our public servants in South Carolina get what is promised to them and what they've earned, and that the taxpayers also know that this is something that we can sustain and keep a balanced budget.
Senator?
Thank you. You know, what we need is honesty and leadership. We have paid out hundreds of millions of dollars in fees in our pension system, fees that get paid to high-priced investment folks up in New York and all over this country. That's our tax money. That's our retirees' retirement being spent out of state. And Governor Haley's appointee to the board that governs that has been all for sending those dollars all across America. What we need to do is have common sense in our pension system. Our investments need to be smart, and we shouldn't be paying some of the highest fees in America. I want to talk about this issue relating to Boeing that Governor Haley brought up. You know, we were both legislators when Boeing came here in the Sanford administration, and we had an opportunity to show if we were going to support Boeing coming here because we had a vote. And I showed up for that vote because I thought it was important for Boeing to come to South Carolina. Governor Haley chose not to. That's what real support means.
Before we move on, I want to remind all of our candidates we're about a third of the way through, and all of you still have rebuttals that you may use. In the interest of fairness, we will now reverse the order. The next question will go to Dr. Reeves from Schuyler Croft.
Given the recent headlines about ethical lapses in Colombia, do you believe there is a culture of corruption in government, and what can be done to prevent it from injuring the state's economic attraction?
Well, for the ethics department, I think the department is doing a pretty good job. Yes, there are corruptions in look at our process. The citizens should have common enough sense to vote on who they want to be the next governor. We need to look deeper down and beyond all the commercials and put God first. Put God before money. Put charity before money. Put love before money. But we can't not elect a governor. I don't even think when it comes around to the Democratic and Republican Party, your vote counts anymore because the governor's position is up for sale. I wouldn't mind paying $1 a year and have it publicly funded. You can't get in the Olympics and you start all of us off on one line, but here I'm not indebted to any political groups or organization, or I'm not indebted to any of those guys. We have people here indebted, though. You know why? Because look at the illustration, the metaphor. Look at our firemen. We can't even afford to pay them. I would not have a fireman out there and put $10 million in my account.
Doctor, your time's expired. Mr. French, the same question, please.
Sure. I'm glad Morgan brought up the Ethics Commission. Our governor likes to bring that up as well. South Carolina understands something. Calling our Ethics Commission ethical is like calling Obamacare affordable, okay? It's just a term. It's just a word they put up there to give you the illusion that that's what we want done. I think the best way of getting transparency in our system right now is look at what the professionals say. Look at what South Carolina Policy Council is saying. We have a state legislature that is the only state in this country that appoints all of its judges. How are you going to have a fair a fair way of deciphering if there's any corruption going on when the people that are being judged are the ones that got appointed. The South Carolina Policy Council also tells us that, you know what, we should probably shorten the legislative session. I even think that we maybe need to have 2 separate sessions, one that just completely talks about the budget, because we have yet to have an open budget process in this state since 2010. We also need to talk about other things like, you know, maybe not having our legislature exempt themselves from the Freedom of Information Act. There's so many things that we can do in this state to provide more transparency.
Mr. French, time's expired. Judge, your response?
Thank you. Well, I want to talk about broken promises. You know, back in 2010, both Vince Shaheen and Nikki Haley participated in a gubernatorial debate just like we're having tonight. And they both promised the voters of this state that they would build Interstate 73. Well, you know what? We don't have an Interstate 73. And neither of these candidates, in fact, to my knowledge, I'm the only candidate that has a plan to fix our crumbling roads and bridges. Now, when it comes to ethics reform, of course, we need an independent investigative body to investigate legislative ethics complaints. Right now, we've got the fox guarding the hen house, and that simply doesn't work. We need to abolish these legislative political action committees. That's just a way to funnel special interest money back into the system. Our agenda in Columbia right now is controlled by special interests and career politicians. We've got to change that culture of corruption. Let's drain the swamp and fix South Carolina. And to do that, we need an independent like Tom Irvin.
Senator?
Thank you. Our state government is thoroughly corrupt. If we want to have ethical government, we have to have ethical leaders elected, and it has to start at the top. We are never going to have ethical leadership in South Carolina if we have a governor who has been fined for violating the ethics laws, a governor who's abused the state plane and had to repay our taxpayer dollars, a governor who didn't report income from doing consulting for a contractor that does work with the government. I mean, that's what we have right now. We have seen too many high-ranking elected officials in South Carolina whitewash ethics problems, get in trouble, and pretend like nothing has happened. It's wrong for Governor Haley to have violated the ethics laws and been fined. It is not acceptable, and we'll never have ethical leadership as long as that's the example being set. We have to have ethical leaders elected, and that's what we'll have when I'm elected governor. You know, we need to have someone who has fully disclosed their income. I turned my tax returns over for the last 14 years to the press and said, have a look. We need an independent investigatory body in the legislature, but also in the governor's office. The governor appoints her own
Senator,
ethics commission.
your time's expired.
Thank you.
Governor?
Thank you. Ethics reform has been a strong part of everything that I've done from the time when I was a legislator and I fought to get legislators to vote on the record. Now they vote on the record on every piece of legislation and on every section of the budget. We fought for income disclosures. We fought for term limits as a legislator, and I agree with everything Mr. French said in terms of where we need to go. But we have said, and very strongly said for the last 2 years, we need to have income disclosures and we need to have independent investigations. We can't have senators overseeing senators. That's not going to work. And it's amazing to me that that Senator Shaheen can say these things knowing that we had ethics reform the last 2 years in a row and he voted to kill it the last 2 years in a row. You know, the thing is, if you're going to talk about ethics reform, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And to have him vote against it twice is really a slap in the face to everybody here. In terms of what you're saying were ethical violations against me, I was found not guilty on any of those things. And the reason y'all got mad that I took the plane is because I was calling y'all out for what you were doing in the legislature, so you pulled my rights away.
Senator, your rebuttal?
Well, it's mighty funny you didn't do anything wrong, Governor Haley, when you were fined for doing it. And, you know, I'll never vote for a bill that's a fake bill. A bill that just allows a legislator to claim they did something or a governor to cover up her trails when she has violated the ethics laws over and over again, because that is wrong, and it's exactly what's wrong in Columbia under your leadership. We have legislation that's meaningless that Governor Haley or other legislators then claims they accomplish things. We have elected officials who violate the ethics laws, like Governor Haley, and then try to promote ethics bills to cover up their trail. That hypocrisy is exactly what's wrong in South Carolina.
Your time's expired. And the next question will come from Dean Stevens. It'll go to Mr. French.
Thank you. Well, given the mood of change nationally, do you support the legalization of marijuana for medicinal use? And do you support legalization for recreational use including if it becomes a boost to the state's tax base, as what has been seen in other states. In fact, Colorado reported $7 million in tax revenue for just the month of June alone.
Yes, yes, and I think yes. I fully support that 100%. The reason I do, though, folks, regardless of what you may think about it, we wholeheartedly, at minimum, need to decriminalize marijuana. We spend $157 million a year in this state arresting people for a victimless, nonviolent crime. We spend more in this state incarcerating an individual than we do to educate a child. Now, the jury's out. I mean, there's a 100% guarantee that marijuana has medicinal use. I have soldiers coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq telling me about how it helps them with PTSD. We know that it helps cancer patients, it helps patients with AIDS, autoimmune disease. We have children in this state that are being helped by this because of their seizures. But the problem is we do a smoke and mirrors bill in our legislature that allows them to have cannabinoid oil, but at the same time then wants to say that it has to be FDA approved. I'm not just for legalization and decriminalization because of the money. It's because I believe you have the right to do what you want with your body in your own home.
Judge?
Well, I support medical marijuana because it has benefited many children, for example, that have seizure disorders. There's medical evidence that it also will help veterans that have PTSD that are returning from war, that may suffer from chronic depression and anxiety, and there are other appropriate medical uses as long as it's prescribed by a physician and properly regulated by the state. But before we rush out to legalize marijuana, let's wait and see what the experience is going to be in the state of Colorado and Washington State. You know, the medical evidence shows that for young people who are habitual users of marijuana, they can actually lose IQ points. And it concerns me, you know, in this day and time, we're in a world economy, and our young people need all the IQ points they can muster to do the jobs of the future. So let's not create brain damage for our young people. What I would agree to do is we should decriminalize first offense marijuana and make that a civil fine.
And your time's expired.
Thank you
Senator?
very much.
Thank you, Will. I can't help but think I have twin boys who are 18 that might be watching this debate. So I don't think that legalizing marijuana is really the answer to our economic problems in South Carolina. I think that the answer to the economic problems in South Carolina is focusing on helping small South Carolina businesses grow and prosper. You know, this administration has turned its back on small business in South Carolina. I own a small business. I understand what it's like to be out there. We need to help them. We need to lower commercial property tax rates on small businesses. We need to make sure that small businesses are treated just as well as big out-of-state companies that we recruit to South Carolina. And you know what? We need to keep our Medicaid tax dollars here in South Carolina to create almost 45,000 new jobs in this state all across South Carolina. It is just wrong that Governor Haley's administration is sending our own tax money that we have to pay, to other states all across America where our jobs are being shipped to. So if we want to help our economy, I think we need to focus on the things we know will work, like small business and keeping our tax dollars here.
Your time's expired. And Governor, your response?
Thank you. And I know that we have in the legislature talked a little bit about medicinal marijuana, and I think that will continue to be a topic as we go forward. I don't want to see it legalized statewide, and I'll tell you why. If you look and listen to what the governor of Colorado has said, he sent out a message to all the governors and said, wait, because they were trying to deal with everything that was going on in Colorado, and I think that we should look at what's happening there. I will tell you that when it comes to the fact that Medicaid continues to come up, let's keep in mind that's a bait and switch for Obamacare. That's exactly what that is. And we don't want Obamacare to be creating jobs. What we do want to do is have jobs that are created in other ways. When you look at Boeing, 80 to 90% of their contracts they're doing with South Carolina businesses. We tell every CEO we want you to hire our South Carolinians and use our South Carolina small businesses. Continental just announced $100 million worth of business they've done with our South Carolina businesses. That's what we're going to do. What we don't want to do is reverse back to what he says is a business but is actually being a trial lawyer where they go and they sue the state to make their money. That's not where we want to go in South Carolina.
Doctor, your response?
again, I think that we should legalize marijuana because it's your independent right. And I would stand up for someone's independent right. I would stand up for their human right. If we can ask our 18-year-old children to go out and risk their lives in war at 18, then they would have the opportunity to decide and choose what they want to do. If you want fresh air, then you have that in your house. If they want to come home and they want this opportunity, as long as they're not public nuisance, I don't see any reason why they can't do it. My theological explanation is, behind this physical universe, there's a God. Not only is he powerful, he's magnificently creative. All the wonders of the world first existed in the imagination of God. The Grand Canyon, the Everglades, cotton, corn, marijuana, and hemp. So I would take rather than your 401k plan for your retirement plan, I would allow you to invest in the hemp milk, which is good for cancer. And those people who are hurting out there, and you need that medication, I'm going to get it to you.
Time's expired. The next question will come from Cynthia Rodan, and we'll start with the judge.
Senator Shaheen recently called for the Confederate flag to be removed from all presence of the State House grounds. Has the time come to address the flag issue again, and do you think that it has a potential to harm the state economically?
I was frankly surprised that Senator Shaheen raised this divisive issue some 33 days before the general election. I want to focus on the real problems of South Carolina, and that includes fixing our crumbling roads and bridges. Do you know we have the most dangerous rural roads in the nation? We have the highest fatality rates in the nation. And half of our primary and secondary roads are rated poor by the South Carolina Department of Transportation. We have over 1,500 bridges in South Carolina that are structurally deficient. Are we going to wait for a bridge collapse to fix this problem? I'm the only person on this stage that has a plan to fix our crumbling roads and bridges. And it includes adjusting the gas tax. It hasn't been adjusted for 27 years. We'll keep it lower than our neighboring states of North Carolina and Georgia, but we need a reliable source of revenue to fix our roads and bridges. That has to be our top priority in the new year. And as if I'm fortunate enough to be your next governor, I'll fix our roads and bridges.
Senator?
Thank you. You know, I think that the people of South Carolina are tired of having an image across America that's not truly who we are. I think we're tired of having an image of corrupt leaders, of unethical elected officials. I think we're tired of having an image that we're stuck in the past and divided. I believe that South Carolinians and our young people who leave this state all too often are tired of the image that the leaders of this state project. And frankly, I think we're tired of politicians who won't say where they really stand. I believe that it's time that we retire the Confederate flag to a place of respect where the history of this great state can be told, and that we all rally together under a flag that unites us all, the American flag, that looks toward the future and not the past. And that's what we need in leaders in South Carolina. We don't need more unethical activity. We don't need more statements we don't trust. We don't need more just looking to the past. We need to look to the future. And that's what this is about. And I'm not afraid to say what I think and to take a stand so that my kids will have a better state than we have today.
Governor?
Thank you. You know, the Confederate flag is a very sensitive issue. And what I can tell you is over the last 3.5 years, I spend a lot of my days on the phones with CEOs and recruiting jobs to this state. I can honestly say I have not had one conversation with a single CEO about the Confederate flag. What is important here is that we look at the fact that, yes, perception of South Carolina matters. That's why we have everybody answering the phones, it's a great day in South Carolina. That's why we're being named the friendliest state and the most patriotic state and getting all these great accolades. But we really kind of fixed all that when you elected the first Indian American female governor, when we appointed the first African American U.S. senator. That sent a huge message. What sent a strange message was when we had Senator Shaheen, who has been in the Senate 15 years, not once ever mentioned the Confederate flag, never taken the well on the Confederate flag, has no bill talking about the Confederate flag, and 1 month prior to the election decides that the Confederate flag has to come down. Again, it's a lot of talk and it's very little action.
Doctor?
Yes. Tom was sharing with you all about the bridges in the state of South Carolina. and about his experience. I own a construction company. I know how to figure out the cubic yards and the cubic yardage, cubic inches of what it takes to repair the roads in South Carolina. I'm the only one on the stage that's ever built a road. I build roads every day. For the county, for the state, I would send a rail system right between our superhighway from Columbia to Charleston. We need a rail system. There's too much asphalt. We're fixing and repairing these roads every other year. I would have a rail system from Columbia to Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I would allow the private sector to invest in the rail system, and then they will have a retirement plan from the rail system. They can have a retirement plan from 8 different products of the marijuana plants. We need someone, we need here in South Carolina, look deep down a little further and find a good candidate. I have 2 earned PhDs. I have played in the Pro Hall of Fame Bowl. I've graduated from the largest school, one of the largest schools in America.
Doctor, we have to leave it there.
And I'm going to be quiet. Thank you.
Mr. French.
Well, again, I'm a libertarian because I believe fundamentally in individual liberty. So if you want to paint your house in the Confederate flag, I am completely fine with that as long as your HOA approves it. Now, Governor Haley talks about other businesses that have never brought that up. Now, I disagree with that. I've got a friend, an MIT grad who works in California, who continues to bring up the fact that he wants to start his own business. When I bring up starting it here in South Carolina, he laughs. He smirks. He still thinks of South Carolina as being this backwoods good old boy network. And that flag, I think, represents a lot of division in this state. And we need to be coming together. We have major problems. Tom brings up the roads. We have the 4th longest road network in this state, and we're only the 40th largest state. Now, I do have a plan to fix our roads, and it's pretty simple. It's about reprioritizing what government's role should be. Now, we have a state lottery here in this state, but we're not allowed to gamble. I can go on ESPN and watch a Texas Hold'em game or anything else. I think we can bring revenues in by just allowing people to be free.
And Doctor, did you want a rebuttal?
Yes, on the flag issue, this is the first time I've been in a debate. 4 years ago, I was not invited to participate in the debate with, although I was on the ballot. As far as the federal flag is concerned, the state newspaper, I remember reading, they said, this is the kickoff of the election, and everybody's picture was on the front page of the state newspaper except for my picture. But I believe, again, this is another reason why we have to put God first. I put love before the $10 million of our legislator and our governor put into their campaign. I put charity first. This is the values that I would give to our, and I'm going to be quiet.
Time's expired. And Judge, you wanted a rebuttal as well.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate my friends talking about our crumbling roads and bridges and the need to fix our infrastructure. You know, let's not forget that 1/3 of all revenues from the gas tax come from out-of-state tourists and truckers. Now, Senator Shaheen would have our taxpayers pay for the 100%, as would Governor Haley, because Senator Shaheen wants to raid the general fund. That's no way to pay for our crumbling roads and bridges. And Governor Haley has no plan. She did say at one point she has a secret plan, but she won't tell us what it is until after the election.
I'd like to rebut that if that's possible.
A rebuttal, Mr. French, please.
Raising the gas tax, folks, is the easiest way to do the wrong thing, okay? Raising our gas tax 100% affects those that are living in poverty. It 100% affects all of us regular small business owners. We do not need to raise taxes. We need to prioritize and decide what government's role should be. And if we do that, I guarantee you that we can cut so much pork out of this budget that we have more than enough money there to fix our crumbling roads if we just prioritize and decide, you know what, maybe we shouldn't give billions of dollars to billion-dollar companies.
Judge.
Mr. French, it's not that easy and it's not that simple. Our Department of Corrections has said it's a $1.44 billion problem per year, and we simply don't have the revenues to do it. And so the fairest way is a user fee, which is the gas tax. It's always been the way we pay for roads and bridges, but it hasn't been adjusted for 27 years. And the buying power of that gas fee has gone so far down that the Department of Transportation doesn't have the money to cut the grass on the interstate, much less repair our roads and bridges.
And Judge, time's expired. We're going to try to squeeze in one last question. I apologize to my candidates. You're going to have less than 30 seconds to give a response in order to get this done. I'm going to go to Tim McGinnis for the question. He's going to start with Senator Shaheen.
The Reason Foundation's annual highway report gives South Carolina high marks for state highways and bridges in terms of condition, maintenance, congestion, fatality rates, and expenditures, yet improvements and expansion are needed to help the state grow economically. So what's your plan to make those improvements, and how will you pay for them?
In 30-second responses, please.
Well, I'm on the roads every day, and our roads are not in good shape. I've got a 3-point plan that I've issued months ago, to do 3 common sense things. Number 1, we have 2 state agencies setting forth policy and funding for roads. We should combine them to save our tax dollars. 2, we should have a fix-it-first approach. That means the vast majority of our dollars will go into fixing the roads that we have. And number 3, we do need more revenue into fixing our roads. I've laid forth a plan to do that, and I hope you'll check it out on my website.
Governor?
We knew infrastructure was an issue because if we're going to keep jobs coming in, we have to keep infrastructure coming in. That's why we're the only state that's put aside all the money we need to dredge the Port of Charleston, $300 million, and we just got the green light. The next thing we did was the inland port to show the world that product to market mattered. And then we passed the largest transportation bill in 2 decades, $1 billion, which is no small change, and we did it without raising taxes. We will continue to work on infrastructure every single year. Thank you.
Doctor, 30 seconds, please.
Well, I'm the candidate of the people, and for the people, I have no aspiration other than to serve the people. I was a volunteer at the Department of Youth Service for years. The money we wasted in campaign funding, the money we wasted for that, you know what I would have done with that money? I would have fed the hungry, and I would have clothed the naked, I would have gave it to offerings. Our political leaders are not doing us right. We need someone who cares about the many, but not the few.
We have to leave it there and move on. Mr. French.
When it comes to roads, again, it's about prioritizing. I'm one of the only candidates up here that does not support I-73, not because I don't think it could create jobs or there is some economic impact, but because it's more important to me to focus on I-26, I-85. We need to be focusing on the port and the related interstate network that supports that, period.
And Judge, you have the final word.
I'm glad Governor Haley mentioned the Port of Charleston because 1 in 5 jobs in our state is dependent on the port. Unfortunately, Governor Haley sold us out to the state of Georgia when she cut a deal with their governor to allow Georgia to dredge the Savannah River 23 miles upstream, dump their waste on us here in South Carolina, and leave us vulnerable to competition from the Georgia Savannah port. That's simply wrong, and I'll fix that when I'm governor.
And Judge, time's expired, and also all rebuttals have expired. Earlier this evening, the campaigns drew cards in order to determine the order of closing statements. Doctor, you're first.
I believe that all people should have equal opportunity to success. This brief belief is based on my Christian values. What we do in government is not all that we need to do. That is the case because we do not reach down far enough to elect people who care more about the welfare of our people and less about the welfare of a few. America is a great nation not because it cares just about a few. Rather, America can be great, South Carolina can be great because she knows that there is an undesirable truth to the statement that the nation we live in can be no better than the least of us. I'm asking you, I'm going to take this time to give taxpayers the credit for paying for all these big companies that came to South Carolina. Your taxpayers paid for Boeing to come here. The taxpayers paid for Mac to come here. And I'm going to say this, God bless all of you.
And
God bless your families. Vote for me, Morgan Reese.
Next, Senator, please.
Thank you. You know, we need a governor that we can trust again in South Carolina. We deserve to have a governor who doesn't break ethics laws, a governor who will tell us the truth, a governor who doesn't allow all our information to get hacked into and stolen from our Department of Revenue and then doesn't come clean with what happened. And we deserve to have a governor who won't sell out the Port of Charleston to the Port of Georgia for 30 pieces of silver. We got to have a governor who will clean up Governor Haley's Department of Social Services that's let too many kids be hurt. We need a governor who will govern, and that's the governor I'll be. I'll be a governor who supports public education every year, not just in an election year. I'll be a governor who fixes the crumbling roads of this state and keeps our Medicaid money in South Carolina where it can work. I'll be a governor who supports small business just as much as out-of-state companies. At the end of the day, what's most important is having a governor who's honest with us. and we haven't had one in a really long time, and we deserve it again. I ask for your support, and I thank you.
Mr. French?
In 1980, Ronald Reagan was asked in a debate, he said, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" No, I'm not going to ask that. I'm going to ask, though, are you freer than you were 4 years ago? Do you feel like any less taxes, any less regulation, any less burden of government has been taken off of you? And I don't believe that that's been the case. I'm trying to break tradition here in South Carolina. I'm trying to stop this state from always being at the bottom of the barrel in income, road quality, and education, and always being at the top in violence against women and corruption. I don't believe that Steve French makes a difference or our governor makes a difference. I believe you make a difference. You're the ones putting food on your table. You're the ones working, signing these fronts of the paychecks. So I'm asking you to be different, think differently, act differently, and vote differently. Because if you do, you're going to make such a big difference, not just in this state, but in our nation.
Judge?
Thank you.
You know, being governor is far more than ribbon cuttings, sound bites, and press conferences. And by the way, I'm not running for vice president. I'm running for governor of South Carolina. I love this state and I love our people. They're hardworking, patriotic people. But our state has been controlled by special interests, career politicians, and party bosses. You know, it's time to drain the swamp of corruption in Columbia. I'm ready to serve you. You have an important decision to make on November the 4th. You can vote for one of the career politicians to my right, or you can vote for a true independent in Tom Irvin. I have common sense solutions to fix our crumbling infrastructure, to eliminate the sales tax, and pass term limits once and for all. As a man of faith, I'm asking for your prayers. What we need in Columbia is less politics and more common sense. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Judge. Governor?
Thank you. You know, 4 years ago, I came to you and I asked you to take a chance on me. I had a vision of a state that brought jobs for the people, a vision of a state where schools worked for our children. And what I said then was, if you gave me a chance, I'd spend the next 4 years trying to prove to you that you made a good decision. Now I want you to look at us now. It's not about words, it's about results. Almost 57,000 jobs in 45 out of 46 counties. Faster growing drop in unemployment than even the nation's drop. They're now referring to us as the beast of the Southeast, third best state to do business in the country. Education reform, pension reform, tort reform, getting legislators to vote on the record, and the list goes on. You know, I know there's been a lot of negativity on this stage tonight, and that's okay. That's politics. I'm used to that. But what I'll tell you is, this time I'm not asking for your words. I'm asking for you to judge me on results. And let's continue to make every day a great day in South Carolina.
And that concludes this evening's debate. We certainly heard a wide variety of questions on a wide variety of topics, and certainly you've received the information you need to make an informed decision on that first Tuesday in November. Don't forget, 1 week from tonight is the final televised debate, which will take place at Furman University in Greenville. We'd like to thank the candidates for the participation. Good luck in your campaigns. We'd like to thank you at home for joining us. We'd also like to thank our media partner, the Post and Courier newspaper, for the participation in tonight's event. Make certain you watch the late news for coverage and reaction of tonight's debate and coverage of all the day's breaking news. Please visit our Facebook pages and tell us who you think won tonight's debate. As always, we salute our military, law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, and other emergency personnel for their service to our communities and our nation. I'm Mark Hyman. Good night.